Welcome to Middles Open, the only local talk show hosted by these three guys. I want to introduce everybody today, and we have a special guest. First of all, my good friend Doug Rischer's here. Doug, how are you?
I'm doing good, Mike. Thanks for having me on this Sunday morning.
Yeah. So, just to say that down the road, I think Doug's favorite thing to talk about will be MMA. He'll talk a little bit about football, but he really wants to basically fight everybody. Now, on that note, we've got the Pastor Blaster with us too, Dave Beaver, my good friend. Dave, how are you?
Doing great, man. Good to be here.
I'm excited because Dave and I have had this show. We've done this show on the phone for about 2 to 3 hours already without even saying we were going to have a guest.
For sure.
But let's say this, before we even introduce our guest, we're not going to be that show on a Sunday morning that talks about sports and just really goes all in on Ohio State, and it's all about fanboyism and all that.
Right.
So let's introduce our guest today, former Ohio State Buckeye Roy Hall. Roy, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad I don't have a nickname like Pastor Blaster.
Listen, the guy's a pastor that fights. It's pretty amazing.
Pastor
I guess you got to fight Doug since Doug wants to fight everybody.
Well,
I guess.
I notice you don't want to fight Roy because he's all jacked up over here.
He's got me by 100 pounds.
That's a problem.
I gotta say, I'm looking in this room, and normally, like, at 275, I feel like I'm the biggest guy in here, and Roy makes me feel like I'm my 11-year-old daughter.
You know what else I bring to the table? You guys need some diversity.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? I don't understand what you mean by that
I
comment, Roy.
mean, you're a little bit lightly toasted, right?
Are you talking about my hair just because it's gray? Because I feel like you're a hairist.
You're lightly toasted. I'm a little bit more. I stuck around. I turned the toaster to 4, all right? And I'm a little bit, so we just got some
I thought you
darker
meant-
toast in here.
I
today.
thought you meant what we had in common is Roy and I have that Denzel Washington look, and then the other two guys in here have that MMA tattoo look.
The same thing.
Okay.
Same thing. That's what I was saying.
Perfect. Well, what I want to get into today is coaching, and does it matter? Let me tell you why. Because all of us in this room know we could do it better than anybody else. Is that correct?
Armchair quarterback, baby.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Monday morning.
So the reason this topic comes up is I make no bones about it. I'm a Grove City guy. Went to school there. Played in the alumni tournament for 48 straight years, even though I'm 42 years old. Roy, don't shake your head. First of all, if you can play alumni softball, you would not be shaking your head right now.
And are you 48 years running and you're only 42?
Listen, you're not a math guy.
It's
You're a
awesome.
football guy.
Before you came out, you were Grove City.
Oh my! You don't even understand.
Man.
I was already playing first base in 1971. I wasn't born until 75.
That's a
I
problem.
love it.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
So, what my point is, and it's so great that you're here for this, is does coaching matter? So I'm at the Grove City game where they're playing Central Crossing. It's a battle of Grove City. And I hadn't gone to a high school football game in 20 years.
Wow.
The reason that I went was last year at that game, there was a banner flying over the top of the stadium, which you never see that at a high school game, saying, "Fire the head coach." So I thought, well, that's pretty interesting. I saw it on Facebook, so of course I'm making a joke, and I'm like, oh, I'm glad my banner's flying. I hadn't even been there.
I was going to go there when you said that. I
Yeah.
thought you were just protecting your
Well, I was
investment.
going to buy a banner that had your name on it to say that you did. I can't take all the heat for it.
Yeah.
Like I said, my toasted cocoa friend. So I see this thing, and I thought, I got to go. I got to check this out. So I go, and I'm on the winning side, which was the central side. I'm just hiding out over there, but I had my Grove City hat on. And I heard all these comments about coaching and all these people that can do it better. Run the ball, do this, do that. And before we even start the show, you guys, Dave and Roy, are talking about the Browns game. And you're talking about all the things they did wrong, correct?
Yeah.
So kind of have that conversation about how, Roy, you were saying Tyrod Taylor is Tyrod Taylor.
First of all,
right?
don't throw me under the bus. And
First of all-
tell the people what you want them to hear. I didn't say anything yet.
You're the guest, so I can say anything.
I didn't say you said. I didn't say anything yet. There's
Doug,
no proof.
Doug is here. Doug, verify that Roy's a liar right now, and also that he said that.
You get to talk first, so you get to speak for him before
That
he
is true.
does.
I am kind of hosting this show. You're going to get kicked off this show.
That's fine. I'm only here for a little bit anyway.
That is true.
I'm a guest.
Only about 22 more minutes.
He's waiting for the validation parking ticket, so.
That's good.
Well, will you touch on the issue of the coaching in the Browns-Steelers game and what you saw there?
The coaching.
Yeah.
I saw excellent coaching.
But which coaches? The kicking coaches? Who are you giving credo to?
The tie coach.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because whenever you have a coach that can overall over the NFL and say, you know what, the greatest story in the world, because coaching is at every level. The greatest story in the world will be to have Hard Knocks, follow the Browns around, right, and make them out to be America's team now, at least for one game. And then we get to the point where we can win the football game. and then we tie. What great coaching where you can actually plan out a tie like the Browns did.
Well, at least you didn't lose. Oh, I forgot. You two boys are from Cleveland, and that's why you're salty.
Yeah, I am salty. Here's the thing. The coaching in the Browns game was up and down, right? And so Hugh Jackson, I think, did a great job and has done a great job creating the mindset and trying to shift the culture. Jarvis Landry, Myles Garrett, these guys stepping up as leaders have really shifted the culture and the belief that they actually can win. That's the great thing about sports. They went 0-16 last year, and they come into this season really feeling like they could beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so they put it all on the line. During the game, I don't think that we did a great job making some adjustments.
You said we.
All right. Yeah, I did say we. I'm shifting now. I'm shifting.
You see how he all of a sudden got, we did this.
See, this is what happens when I'm making a good point. All right, and you want to go a different
I
direction.
wanted
Now you
to
want to
listen.
interrupt me with your coffee.
Right now,
No one drinking coffee can make a valid coaching point. Are you kidding me? Like, you can't make a valid coaching point drinking coffee. All right, back to what I was saying.
he has a straw.
All right, we didn't make some crucial adjustments in the game. Pastor Dave over here said that we shouldn't have been pushing the ball down the field. I'll let him talk on it. But I think overall we did a good job getting us prepared mentally. That's how I'm walking off.
Yeah, that's how I would basically say we lost.
Let me ask you guys, what do you guys think? Are you going to get some free beer here sometime soon in Cleveland?
Clearly, we got free coffee.
Free
We got free coffee.
I saw on Facebook
That's
that
only at the station, Roy.
I saw somebody posted on Facebook the day of the game that they thought Budweiser rigged it so that they wouldn't have to give away free beer at Cleveland.
I would doubt that. Listen, let me tell you, there's plenty of beer being drinking in Cleveland. Been there my whole life. It is like Great Lakes is a brewing company. I'm seriously, it's like brewed directly from Lake Erie water. The whole
I can see
thing,
that.
beer.
I can see that.
Have you ever been to the Muni lot on a Sunday morning? They start drinking at 4:30 a.m. The game don't even start till what 1 o'clock.
That's
They're
crazy.
hammered
That's crazy.
by 6:10.
And Budweiser would not have rigged it because that would have been a great marketing thing to get that many fans with their beer in their hands taking pictures. That'd
That's
be
true.
free marketing.
So your theory is that they picked the Browns because they want to give away free beer. They didn't pick the Patriots. That's what you're. Why? Wait a minute. Why are you looking out the window, Roy? Look
Well-
at me when I'm asking you the direct question.
No, I was just looking at the sunlight. It's beautiful out.
It
Here
is
in Columbus, Ohio.
It's beautiful to avoid this question.
Yeah, well, you know what? They didn't pick the Patriots because the Patriots weren't on Hard Knocks, right? It's about the Cleveland Browns. It's about the Cleveland dark toasted. That's what it's about. The Browns are dark toasted.
I like that you mentioned Great Lakes because there's not much great about those lakes up there. But Dave, I'm not going to pick on you
Jeez.
You are
specifically.
going at
I am.
And
just
here's the
Northeast
thing.
Ohio. These are my friends.
I'm gonna tell you what. 0-16. That's hard to do. Think about this. Browns, 4-0, preseason champs. 0-16, regular season chumps. This year, we're off to the best start in a long time. Hey,
Absolutely.
hold on, and check this out. Nobody. I mean, it's Cleveland against the world, baby. Nobody's ever gone 0-16. We're going 16 ties this year. Stop us if you can.
That could be
I'm
good.
just saying.
Wait,
Matter of
And
fact,
coaching brilliance at its finest.
it's actually the redemptive middle,
Redemptive middle.
the tie.
We go
It's the
from
redemptive
losing, we tie, then we run the table 16 no
I'm
Super Bowl
not buying
champs.
it. I'm not
Absolutely.
buying it.
There you
So your theory is you're okay with the coaching decisions made in that game. You will defend that to the hilt that game was coached perfectly. There's nothing you would change.
No, I'm not saying it's coached perfectly. I think in life you would mess it up no matter what. But overall, you would have to give me some examples of what you want me to talk about as far as decision making in the game.
Is this your show? So here's what I'm saying. I don't want to get hung up on just that game, but I want to talk about coaching overall
Okay.
because the other part that came up when all this thing was going on with Ohio State. We don't want to rehash that. It is Jason Day. Is that his name? Jason Day.
Coach Tate.
So Ohio State's murdering people without Urban there. Does coaching matter or does the system matter?
I think that both matter, and the coach creates the culture. He creates the system, and so no matter what, you can tell a good leader with a good culture by what happens when that leader walks away. And so Ohio State continued to be dominant because Coach Myers did a great job training up those guys, which is why he loses a guy or two to an assistant coach or usually a head coaching position every single year because he's created a culture where anybody could plug into, right? And so it doesn't matter if he's there or not. If these guys do what they're coached up to do and have been trained to do, it doesn't matter who's leading them, so to speak. So when he comes back, it's not going to be like our play is going to be elevated because Coach Meyer is back. Our preparation is going to change because it's a different voice that they'll hear. But these guys have been trained up and coached up to be able to go out and do their job, which is why we continue to dominate. So Coach Meyer has done a great job training and building a culture and has a system in place where anybody could come along and lead based on what he's already implemented.
Absolutely.
Did you like that?
I loved it. It was well thought out. But now I want to take the other side of that. What's wrong with Florida? Because that was Urban Meyer's thing, right? And I'm not blaming him, but it seems like you build this culture, and then once someone leaves, that entire culture. Well, the only reason I ask is because you went through this where you played for. It's two different cultures, right? You had Coach Stressel, now you have Urban. When you lose that culture, how do you get that back?
Well, if you have a guy like Coach Meyer who leaves Florida, and along with him leaving, everyone else leaves.
Right.
Now you have to start all the way over, right? And so, Pastor, you've gone through this before, just from a church standpoint, just from building the church. It's the same thing. Like if you leave, if someone leaves and everyone else leaves, there is no culture. You have to have somebody else to come in and rebuild that.
Absolutely. I think culture is, as Roy said, coaching creates culture. Let me give you a real football experience, okay? This is the first year I have not coached football in probably 15 years, right? So let me give you a quick story. I had a group of 7th graders that went 2-6. Their coach told them, you're uncoachable, you're whiny, you don't work hard, you don't pay attention, you screw off, yada, yada, yada. The coach was fired at the end of the year. Wonder why. The next year, I became the head coach. Now these boys are 8th graders, okay? We started in June. We ran, we worked out, we lifted weights together. And I created a different culture. And the culture was about creating a mindset of victory and winning in their heads. Use the 2-12 principle. We'll talk about this another time. But here's what I did. I didn't ask them to do it. I led them to do it. So when they ran 100-yard sprints, I ran 100-yard sprints. The first 2 weeks of wearing a helmet, I coached in a helmet. And I said, I don't want to hear anyone say, I have a headache, I'm too sweaty, my helmet's too tight, so is mine. I'm going to coach in a helmet. If you're uncomfortable, I'm uncomfortable. We created a culture. We got rid of our excuses. Here's what happened. That same group of boys playing the same boys they got whooped on by 40, 50 points the year before. Guess what happened?
1-7.
We went 7. Oh, hey, don't ruin my story. You said yes. That was a terrible game.
Were you the coach that got fired?
He did. He got fired.
I'm applying for that job. It's open like every year.
And so we went 7-1. We went 7-1, won the league title for the first time in the school's history, 7-1, beating teams by 50 points. We flipped the switch. Why? Because we changed the culture that was in the heads of those kids. They were plenty athletic enough.
Yeah.
They were plenty capable. There was a bad culture part of them. Guess what? Those boys, those 8th grade boys, they're all seniors tonight. Remember, I told you, we went 7-1. The team that we lost to, Bern Union, the hated Bern Union, we play them tonight at home. These are my boys, last chance. I'm going to be on the sidelines.
Nice.
I mean,
I really feel like if somebody from Bern Union was listening to this right now, like you're
Yes.
losing us.
I'm
viewership
sorry.
on Facebook and also.
have you been to Bern Union?
I mean, I don't
It's
know
okay-
that
it's
anyone
okay.
has. Who's gotten out of there? If you're a person that's got out of Bern Union, please email the show because we'd
Please.
love to hear that.
Please do.
Look at Roy; he's gonna move there.
Hey man, listen.
Roy's like, I just looked at proud
He just wants to be difficult. He wasn't going against.
Hey, I'm
the
not.
great
I'm not
concept.
saying anything right now. I felt like we lost once you started talking coaching and coffee. So I just,
So, go ahead, Doug.
All right, let me expand on this coaching stuff. Like in my experience with MMA, the coaches that I had when I was doing MMA, like you can probably, he would do the same thing. He would train with us. He'd be doing jump rope with us. He'd be lifting. He'd be doing, striking drills. And it builds a culture. So even if he's not around,
That's right.
I'm going to perform that same exact way. So I agree. I think the coach is a big part of it. So I definitely think that's always going to be a big
Well,
part.
that's a really good point because both of Dave and Doug have these MMA backgrounds. Roy obviously doesn't want to fight anybody, but
don't need to.
until the show's over.
You just got to look
So-
at him and be like, I'm not fighting.
So my point being that you guys got different coaching styles, right? But it matters to your outcome. And so when I look at something and say, you see coaches get fired in these cycles, whether it's college or especially NFL. When John Gruden sits out, what was it, 5 or 6 years or something like that? 10 years.
Decade.
So he got $1 million for every year that he sat out, every year that he's going to coach.
Yeah.
How is he a better coach for $10 million a year than someone else?
He's
because
0-1
you
right
talk
now.
about culture, and I agree with that.
Right.
But there's got to be a point where, how do you figure out what someone's culture is worth?
Well, I think that it just depends on what level you're on, right? And so when you hear John Gruden, it creates a lot of different mindsets. So for the fan base, it excites them, which pushes ticket sales, which pushes more time on ESPN, more people talking about us. So from a business standpoint, the leaders at the top are saying this is a great shift for our culture because people care about us from East to West Coast. So that's great. The players on the other side, you have to work with and build inside that locker room. So John Gruden is a huge personality and a great hire until it's time to get on the field. So now when you go out and you lose by 20 points to the Los Angeles Rams, now the players are saying, hey, we need you more as a leader. And so when you make a shift by getting rid of like a Khalil Mack,
Correct.
if you're going to be a leader, you're going to have to give us a valid reason for you shipping off our arguably the best player in the NFL, right? And those are the types of moves based on having an ego that you can lose the entire culture, because Khalil Mack could have been the culture of that team.
Let me ask you this. So you've been in locker rooms where I'm sure someone's gotten cut or traded.
Right.
What happens in a situation, Khalil Mack, that's a guy you got to lock up for a decade, and they move him
Right.
for really nothing, if you think about it.
Right.
What happens in your head when that happens? You see when you were with the Colts, you see Peyton Manning leaves or any of that. What are you thinking? Are you all of a sudden like, this thing's sinking or what?
Well, now all of a sudden, you know that nobody's bigger than the team, so to speak. And so now you're questioning your value, right? If they're getting rid of him, then they'll get rid of me. And so guys start panicking, right? So obviously we're not in it to win it this year. So are we rebuilding? What direction are we going in right now? What is Coach Gruden doing? So now you're starting to question all these moves, which fractures the team, because you have these pockets of people that half of them believe in the team, half of them don't. And when you get on the field, if you don't have that chemistry, if you don't believe in each other, who cares if you lose by 30 points? Now you start looking at your paycheck. At least I got paid this week. Like, I'm good to
Is
go.
that a serious
right?
thing? Like, I've heard that before.
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding me? Especially when you're on a losing team. I mean, there are guys that want to win every single play, every single snap. And then you get guys that do want to win, but they got to protect their future, right? So if we're going to go 0-16 like the Browns, hey, man, I'll catch a couple balls, but I'm not running over the middle and going all in when
Coleman.
you know,
Coleman.
when my career could
Don't
end
talk
because we're
about
not
the
winning.
mayor like that.
Come on. Mayor.
Coleman.
Out of control.
But you've actually participated where, have you ever sat beside somebody who's like, you know what, I'm not going all in on this?
Well, no, because when I was with the Colts, we were always winning. All right, we were always winning. However,
Oh, that sounds like bragging, but go ahead.
I mean, you know, but I did spend 3 or 4 weeks in Detroit, and the culture was totally different. All right, so I don't know what our record was that year. It was 2011 season, I believe, 2010, but we weren't that good, right? But I remember in Indianapolis, everything was precise. Coach Dungy had everyone's respect. We were always on time with things. He held us accountable. We were big on no excuses, no explanations. Just execute. Like everything with Coach Dungy never cursed. He never threw anybody under the bus. He was not that coach, and he didn't allow his coaches to be that coach that can say something to you that they wouldn't say to you in like the aisle of Best Buy if they were passing you. Like, you know, some coaches just curse you out and yell at you, and then if you saw me walking down the street, there's no way that you would say those things. When I got to Detroit, head man in charge. He F-bombs every 5 seconds. And so we're losing it. So it's like what you've built is a defense system on everyone where they don't respect you and they don't care. So you can curse all you want, but I'm not doing anything.
So it's like a bad job.
There you go. It's not here, though, for you, though. Clearly.
No, I don't have a job.
Right.
But Doug has worked in a building before with somebody who was like that. Doug, what is the morale like in a business? Because the owner is like your coach, right?
True. I mean, I've worked in radio for a long time, but it's the head guy here is like our coach, so it definitely makes a difference. But I was going to ask you.
Did you just call your boss a jerk? I just
No.
wanna make sure.
This is
I
a
just wanna
different,
check.
this is a
I'm like,
different
that
guy.
is
different guy.
gutsy.
No.
But he might be
I'm
listening, though.
I'm on the radio station. My
He used
boss
to
is
own
there.
it, so-
He doesn't. He actually loves you. Doug said off air, my boss is the greatest. Sorry,
I just
I
watched
thought
his
you just
car
got
this
yourself
morning,
fired. So I'm making sure.
That's so kind of
Let me
him.
ask you this. So you're saying, like, in the locker room, sometimes you're going to have these guys that are, you know, they're all gung-ho, they want to win, and then you have another group of guys that are just pretty much protecting their lifestyle and everything. Doesn't that start to bleed over to the guys that do want to win, that attitude? Doesn't that start to affect everybody else?
I mean, everyone started out with the season, hey, we want to win, we want to do things right, you know, hey, we want to go win a Super Bowl, we want to win a division title. It always starts that way. And then slowly but surely, the locker room gets split based on the agenda. When you see the moves that are made, this is on a professional football level, where guys are very in touch with reality of their situation. Like NFL stands for not for long. So eventually, I got to start putting myself first. Right, so if you're in the locker room and people are shipping off your best players, or your quarterback's injured for the year, or there's a rebuilding project, or now all of a sudden you want me to mentor this young guy because he's supposed to take my spot in a couple years, guys throw in the towel and really start thinking about the offseason. And so when you don't have that focus, and you can see it, You can see it. What I do like about the Browns, I felt like they were still
100%.
feeling like they could win last year. Like I didn't feel like everybody on the
Yeah.
team just threw in the towel. They were in and competitive in a lot of games.
Yeah.
But certain other teams, you could see they just throw in the towel.
Black depth. Yeah.
So you're seeing consistency there, so you're okay with Hugh Jackson. I want you to go on record because this is probably going to be on Bleacher Report. That
That's fine.
Roy Hall said Hugh is the deal.
I don't know. It won't be on Bleacher Report, but it might be on your report.
You
but-
don't get. Well, I have my own.
Yeah.
That's his report.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Bleachers.
Yeah,
Teacher-
so I'll
teacher's
be-
report.
Listen, I don't sit the bench. You know what I mean. I'll be in the dugout tweeting this, but go ahead.
I look at body language. I look at enthusiasm. I look at passion. I look at are you willing to take risks and what moves you made that cost you your season last year. So last year we went 0-16, but what he did was brought in some veteran guys that could make a difference in that locker room and said, you know what, instead of me banking on our first round draft pick or second round draft picks, I'm going to bring in some leaders, some culture changers, Jarvis Landry, Tyrod Taylor. I'm going to bring in some guys that could help us in the long run. I like those moves, and I think he's positioned himself and said, hey, I'm all in now. I'm going to do it my way. We went 0-16. If this doesn't work, all right, then fire me. But we're going to go in, and I'm going to come back with more enthusiasm than ever, even being 1-31 and 1 overall.
Yeah, you got to throw that last one in.
It's
there.
important.
If you don't, you're cheating.
And
It's important.
Yeah.
Well, I think you got to look at it too. Nothing solves it. I think at that level, for a coach and players, like winning. You got to win, and once they strike that first W, people are gonna forget about last week's tie or the last year's loss. We got to win, and somewhere the worms got to turn. They say once they get that first W, the worms turn, if you will. The thing is, to Roy's point, look, Jarvis Landry got hands for days, right? Josh Gordon. This is what I love about. This is what I'll say about Hugh and the organization. They cared more about Josh Gordon as a human being than being a freak athlete, and they were patient and gracious and poured into him off the football field and to him as a man, allowing him the space and time to get right, to come back onto the football field, and then guess what? Week 1 he had an impact, right? Now Tyrod Taylor did underthrow him, going for it all when he should have just dinked the middle. We should have kicked the field goal and we should have won the game. And I'm not bitter about it at all as a Cleveland fan. I'm just saying.
Throwing him under the bus.
I'm sorry, no, I've been a Browns fan. I bleed orange and brown.
Tyrod
my
Taylor
whole
is a
life.
big listener of this show.
He is. I know he is. All right, Tyrod, I love you, but I'm just saying. So now, back to the coaching. I think that the culture is bought in to Hugh Jackson. Now, I'll tell you this from coaching or just my Monday morning quarterback, and he don't care what I say. I mean, I've shot him a text message a few times. He never responds. Respond, Hugh. Respond.
Please.
Please respond. But here's the deal. I do question the play calling sometimes, because I think you got to have situational football is situational football, right? And sometimes the play calls are predictable based on patterns and rhythms. So I'm sitting there and I go, hey, it's 3rd and 7. Why are we running a draw play with Carlos Hyde, hoping it breaks open? Man, it's 3rd and 7, man. Like I get situational football and we can dink or dive. Let's work the sidelines. You got Landry with hands for days. You got Gordon, who's bigger and stronger than most defensive backs. Hey, let's use those wheels. But it's predictable when you see Carlos line up on the left side, and we've been doing it all game, that we're going to run the draw, we're going to give it to him and try to let power football. Well, guess what? You are playing the Steelers, and they're not going to be gimmicked into it. Why? Because their coaching is consistent.
Well, see, that falls on to Coach Haley, right, and play calling, and that's why you try and hire people that'll do the right things in the right situation. I think when we're talking coaching and leadership, he has to live by what his offensive coordinator calls. We've kind of shifted. Coach Haley was a little bit different as far as play calling when he was with the Steelers, and now when he's with us, we're trying to do this power football thing. We did it in week 3 of the preseason, I believe, or week 2, where we wanted to come out and set the tone running the football. You can't necessarily come out and run the football against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's where their strong points are. So I kind of question that mindset, but apparently they saw something on film that they felt that they could exploit.
True.
It played them to a draw, all right, and so it wasn't good enough. That's all I know.
All right, we only
Wait, is that the conspiracy? Haley, coach for the Steelers, now he's with the Browns. Did he coach us to a tie?
You think he did it on purpose?
He did it on purpose.
So you bring that up at the end of the show. You wait until the show's almost over,
I'm
and then
just
you go, I
joking.
got a great topic.
I'm just
Next
kidding.
week.
Yeah, maybe we should do that next week. Before we leave, though, I want to talk about one of the all-time most controversial calls, and I want your opinion. But you gotta do it quick. Super Bowl, do you run Marshawn Lynch or throw the pass? I don't care about what the I don't care about what the result of the play
You asking
was.
Coach Beaver?
I'm asking each one of you because everyone says, "Oh, I'd have thrown it too." They
I'm giving that man a bag of Skittles and going beast mode all day long. Run the ball.
Roy.
What was it down and distance? You remember?
Listen, I was watching on television. I had a Mountain Dew in my hand. I turned my back. They threw an interception, so I don't know that. It was within the 5-yard line.
I still throw the football because that's what we're going with. I throw the
You're a
football.
wide receiver yourself.
This has nothing. Listen, I am.
Yeah. I forgot what I was asking you.
Hey, you throw the ball.
If I asked any running back, you know what? Never throw the ball ever.
Here's the thing, though. This goes to preparation and coaching. All right. So you throw the football. Every other coach in the league, they don't have the guys in position to pick it off. But Coach Belichick, because of the culture that he's built, and they stayed an extra 5 or 10 minutes in walkthroughs in the lobby of the hotel to go over that play that was a potential. That's why they picked it off.
I will say, I'm a Patriots fan, so I'm glad they threw that ball.
Oh, you're a front runner. Nice to know. Thanks.
I'm from New England. So.
And so
Forgiven.
For our first show, I think this went really well. We figured out that Dave, you're passionate about the Browns.
Yes.
Doug has his points, and Roy just wants the ball all the time. Selfish.
There's nothing wrong with being selfish sometimes.
No, I appreciate you coming on the show. It's
Appreciate
fantastic.
it, man.
That's it for Middles Open this week, but we will see you next Sunday.
Nice.
Nice.
You wouldn't really throw the football, would you?
Run the ball. Hindsight is 20/20.